What's going on, babe?
Hey babe, how was your day?
It was actually pretty productive. Happy to be home.
Good. You know we got a game today. Honey, a little rough around the edges.
I'm saying I've been working all night, taking care of business, getting to the. You know what? I don't even want to talk about it. I got you. I'm not trying to be out here looking like a dusty, and that's why I'm excited to have Hanley as a sponsor of today's video. They help me start and maintain my skincare routine by making the entire process uncomplicated. Honestly, it's the best skincare system for guys like you and me. I recommend you start with their level 1 system, which come with all of the basics: a daily face wash to get rid of the dirt and grime on your skin, a 2 times per week exfoliating scrub to get rid of the dead skin cells, an AM moisturizer with SPF 20 because you should always be protecting your skin from the sun, and a PM moisturizer to help your skin stay hydrated and healthy throughout the night. My favorite part about Hanley is that every box comes with an instruction card that tells you when to use each product, how much to use, and in what order. In addition to amazing skin, members of Hanley get tons of benefits, including at least 20% off the retail price and the ability to customize your box. And because Hanley is sponsoring today's video, they're offering my viewers an amazing deal. Just click the first link in the description. You'll get 30% off your first box plus a free gift. Click the link and get started today. We taking care of ourselves. Self-care, fellas, is the first step to be able to get to that bag, to take care of business, and be on top of things and level up in every aspect of your life. Feel the Teej, my friends. What's going on is Anton from AntonDaniels.com. I appreciate you guys for continuing to rock with me. As my dog Class C Beat says, that's the OG commercial. Maybe I'll shoot a new one soon. Who knows? Maybe I'll shoot the Dominican Republic version of it. But what's going on, friends and family? It is Wednesday, April 26, 2023, year of our Lord. I am happy to be before you today, once again, doing great things. Thank you for rocking out with me. Thank you for being a bag chaser. Thank you for continuing to hold me down. Thank you for adding value into my life. Hopefully you get just as much value from me as I get from you and you being a part of my network. So I appreciate you. Let's go ahead and get the housekeeping out of the way first and foremost. I want to invite you guys, if you have not already, and if you're not a dusty, and you're looking to grow in the direction of people that is maybe a little bit ahead of you, because nobody wants to just be the top dog in the room. If you're looking to rock out with a group of people that's going in the direction that you're going in, make sure you tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description as well as pinned to the top of the chat. Also, I am out here in the Dominican Republic, so hit a like or a dislike for the YouTube algorithm for Santo Domingo. I've been out and about, spending my time, relaxing a little bit more than I usually would, but we still getting it in, right? And so make sure that you invite your friends and your family, send this out to your friends and family to make sure that they can get value just as much as you getting value. Also, I will be going live on my other channel, the Anton Daniels channel, tonight. So I'm anticipating going live possibly about 9 p.m. Eastern, somewhere between 9 and 9:30 p.m. Eastern tonight, and we're going to have a conversation. I think you guys are going to like it. I have some things on my mind that I need to get off. So hopefully you guys tune in for that, and we can make sure that we get it popping. Let me give an acknowledgement to my first super chat of the day. All wings, everything is in the building. Says, what up, Anton? I see you in Santo Domingo. I'm part of the Bag Chasers. Let's link up if you have time. I'm guessing that you are here too. I don't know what DOP 500 is, but I'm assuming that that's here, whatever the currency is, over here in Santo Domingo. Shout out to you. Thank you guys for continuing to hold me down. I also have my daughter is out here. And she's competing in a taekwondo tournament. So that's the main reason why we here. We here for her, and hopefully she's having a great time just as much as we having a great time bringing her along. So let's go ahead and get started with the show. The first thing that I want to share with you guys, and I'm always limited as to the amount of things that I'm willing to say or have a conversation about, simply because I want to make sure that you guys get value out of the things that I experience in my real life. However, I keep personal business personal. I was talking to Melanie King this morning, right? And we were having conversations, and we were, shooting the breeze, talking about the different things that we got going on and the different strategies that we have and the upcoming uh, things. Let's just say upcoming things that we're working on, and all of the different new exciting things that's happening within our lives. But then we also had conversations about how we need to be moving going forward. She gave me a little bit of insight. I gave her some insight. But one of the main things that I was communicating to her, and shout out to Elliot Jackson, I'm going to be reading Super Chat shortly. One of the main things that I was communicating to her is I was trying to help her to understand, hey, listen, you got to recognize where you are. And I'm not even talking about as it relates to relationships or as a woman or anything like that. I'm talking about status, content creation, things like that. You have to recognize who you are, where you are, and every fight does not have to be fought based off of how you feel or what you interpret it to be, right? And so, I was helping her to understand, and I was telling her, I said, yo, Melanie, you can't fight every fight. As a matter of fact, you should be so insulated and protected from the things that you see from the people that surround you or by the people that surround you, and that the majority of what you see is only things that's conducive to the direction that you're trying to go in. So if you're working on this or you in this status, right, or you've reached a certain milestone in your content creation journey or in your professional journey, and this is not just, as it relates to content creation, this relates to you specifically, right? Because I'm not telling you this in order to just talk about it from me and her. I'm talking to you, and so you can take the insight and information and apply it to your life specifically. If you on a specific journey or you going in a certain direction, it would behoove you to stay out of the mud from the people that you've evolved from, as far as them trying to pull you back into this space that you've largely graduated from throughout your life. Why would I go back to participating in high school games and I've been out of high school for over 20 years, right? Why would I participate in college games when I've been out of college for over 20 years, right? When I see people go back to, and this is no slight or no shot or anything like that, when I see people go back to the high school games, right, because they want to cheer on their alumni, and that's cool. And I just got to give it to you from my perspective. When I see people go back to homecoming, right, for certain colleges, and I don't care if you going to a historically black college or, you are a part of a fraternity or a sorority or something like that, I can't identify. And it's not because I chose not to pledge, because I never wanted to be a part of an organization where I felt like the majority of the guys were there just to try to get some box. That has nothing to do with it. I'm not interested in going back and going backwards at all. The things that I was interested in high school don't interest me anymore. The things that was exciting and fun to me in college is not fun to me anymore. I've evolved. The cars that I don't want any old school cars. I'm not interested. My very first car was a 1986 Buick Regal, and it was beautiful. It was awesome. But it served its purpose at that time, and I'm not interested in having another one, right? I'm not interested in having old technology. I'm not interested in hanging out with people that I've then divested myself from. I'm not even interested in reconnecting with family because it's not that they bad people, it's that they served a purpose in my life at that particular time. And now I've evolved to where I'm in a completely new space, new direction, and I'm not trying to go backwards. I don't look backwards. The only time that I acknowledge where it is that I came from is to recognize how far I've come so that I can keep in my mindset how far I need to go, because I realize that if I've been able to evolve past where it is that I've come from, then why would I be focused on what I can't do, because I've seen how much I've achieved? If I can do that in that amount of time, then I know I can do double and triple now with the insight and information that I know. I'm never interested in finding out what previous girlfriends did or the one that got away. I don't go back and look up people on Facebook. I'm not trying to understand what the old homie then did or anything like that. If we just so happen to run into each other and we chop it up and I find out that you've evolved in the same way that I've evolved, and then we wind up exchanging information and staying in touch because now we've reconnected and we going in the same direction, that's one thing. But I'm not on that type of time. I'm not interested in seeing, what they doing at the alumni events. And dog, I'm gonna be honest with you. I went to my 10-year reunion, and that was cool. I never went to the 20. I'm not going to the 30. I'm not going to the 40. If we all live long enough, I'm certainly not going to go to the 50 because I'm assuming that the majority of us is probably going to be dead. I am so focused on what it is that I have right in front of me. I got a daughter in front of me. I got a phenomenal wife in front of me. I got a great family. I got a great family and you guys as a part of the Bag Chasers. What do I look like going back to do the same thing that I was doing in the first place? If I'm not continuously growing, if year over year, and this is one of the reasons why I document the journey, if year over year, I don't see significant progress in my life. If I go back and I look at my vlogs, right, or I look at my content, even when it comes to becoming a better live streamer or a better content creator, or the thumbnails, or the amount of the type of content that I'm producing, right? I did panels for literally like 2 or 3 years straight. No misses, no days off. I was there on the Lapeef Network on Thursdays when everything was going up and everything was going down. I mean, I practically built the platform on my back and being the villain and being the voice of reason and being the person that calls people out and be accountable. I mean, I don't really know how much more you want from me. When I finally announced and I said, listen, I'm off the panels. I may pop in here and there just to get my opinion because I like watching and you guys are entertaining. And there's other things that we need to be working on, sponsorships, being more productive behind the scenes, working on finding better people, looking to replace ourselves. If I'm not continuing to evolve, or if I'm not looking to replace myself, then what are we talking about, right? When I announced and I said, listen, I'm not going to be on panels. I'm not going to be doing this anymore. And people said, oh, no. And I get it, right? Because, familiarity, it kind of puts you in that sense of comfort because if you know what's always going to be in front of you, you never have to be surprised. And then you put people in an uncomfortable position when they have to see something completely different. And that's in real life content creation or whatever, right? But if I'm not continuing to evolve and grow the platforms by then replacing myself and then evolving myself to become, more of a productive person or live streamer or executive or person that's putting people in a position of power, listen, Q's show is killing it. Q, when she live stream on Monday nights and the clips and stuff like that comes out as a result and the growth that I seen in her as a person that oversees things that goes on the panel. Q, I seen something in Q a long time ago. When I very first met her, I said, oh, I could see it. I could see it. If she shows herself to be something or to show this level of consistency, or if I can see the character in her and if I can make sense of that, you know what I'm saying? It's going to cook. When everybody else fell off, when everybody else just melted into oblivion, come on, man. Y'all know all of the different people that showed up on the panel, men and women, and then they just melted into oblivion and they said that they was better than us or, it wasn't going to be nothing without us. And we still rocking. Profits is up bigger than it's ever been, and where are they now? What happened to them? Because we were the ones that were carrying them. They added value based off of being a supporting cast. But let's be for real. Jordan is still Jordan at the end of the day. And the Bulls ain't winning no championship without Jordan. You know what I'm saying? But at some point, Jordan had to graduate and said, you know what, I'm going to become the owner. Now, I'm not really sure how good of an owner he is, but that's a completely different conversation. I want to be a business owner. I want to be making connections, and I want to be adding value, and I want to get remarried and all of this. Like, Jordan's life is evolved past whatever it was that he did in 93, 94, 95, 96, or in the 80s. And so when I see people still stuck in place, what I say a lot of times is, oh, they just stopped growing. Oh, that's all they had in their tank. Oh, they got comfortable. Or, oh, their best years are behind them because the only thing that they pay attention to is the things that used to be or what they were. I don't want to be one of those people that's sitting there chucking and jabbing, talking about, hey, what we used to do or how we used to be. No, my best years are ahead of me. And the only way that I can grow is to continue to focus on the things that add the most value to my life. I have a bright future. And some people's best days were as a result of latching onto me at a specific time of their life. And the minute that I decided to cut bait, That's all they ever had. The only thing that they could ever look forward to, or the only thing that they'll ever have, is to say, remember when we. They still stuck in place. They still stuck in time. They still focused on what it was that we first were when we first created it, or what it was. I'm not focused on that. I'm focused on what the growth can be and how things should be going forward into the future. I have so many things on my plate, so many irons in the fire, so many opportunities that's before us. I'm not sitting here waiting or working or having conversations about the things that used to be. I'm so focused on where the growth is. Where's the growth opportunities? Where's the opportunities? Because the minute that you start focusing on things when what they used to be is the minute that you start dying. You stop living and you start dying. And so the conversation that Mel and I was having earlier this morning was, hey, listen, recognize the direction that your life is going in and stop playing in the mud. Get the hell off of these out of the comments. Stop focusing on what's going on inside or what somebody else is saying about you. Man, I'm on a streak of not even knowing at all. The only thing I care about is that my names continue to reign in the algorithm. I want people to continue to put the name in there because it continues to make me relevant of what it was or what it is that we doing on YouTube or whatever. I got a completely different content creation strategy that I'm implementing. And if in 2024 on April 26th, if I'm not having a conversation with you talking about how it is that I've grown and looking back on what things used to be, then I'm doing myself a disservice. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to be absolutely honest with you. My goal in the next 3 to 4 years for the Millionaire Morning Show is for this not to be the Millionaire Morning Show with Anton Daniels, for this to be the Millionaire Morning Show and for somebody else to be hosting it. Let me say it one more time. My goal for this platform specifically is not even to be the one that's in front of the camera. I'm looking to replace myself. I want to put somebody else on. I want to put somebody else in a position of power. I don't want to be the person that I love the Millionaire Morning Show. This is my favorite time to do anything with regard to content creation, and sit here and have a conversation with y'all and figure out how I can add value into your life. But if I'm sitting here 5 years from now, still telling you about how it is that you need to get your life together and repossessions, and the Biden administration just got ousted and we got Kamala Harris as the president, then that is a effing problem. That is going to be a problem. I do not want to sit here still having conversations. We should have a whole new audience. We should have been grown. We should have groomed people. One of y'all that's sitting here having this conversation right now with me should be one of the ones that's actually live streaming with the audience and giving them game. Because if you're not sitting here taking every single gem that I have for you, if you're not a part of the Bag Chasers and a part of the Patreon, and you're not the one that's having this conversation with the people, if you're not in a position to then be handpicked so that you can get the bag and really, really level up and use the platform in order to elevate your status with regard to visibility so that you can then leverage that information or leverage that visibility in order to get a bigger bag, then we got a problem. We got a problem. So look around you. Look at the people to your right, like they say in church, and look at the people to your left, and understand that it's a strong possibility that those people ain't going to be next to you, but it ain't going to be because they sold you out or they did anything dirty. Nah, we're going to remix it. It's going to be because you've outgrown your circumstances and you guys are just going in two different directions. And it's an opportunity for you to then leapfrog into something else. And if they're not happy for you, then it was never with you or they was never for you in the first place. So get out of the mud. Let the pigs play in the mud. Let the people continue to do what they do. Stop focusing on the things that everybody is saying and start focusing on the opportunities that's in front of you. Because if they're talking about you, that means that you're relevant. And focus, work, get it, hustle, right? It's more bags to get. It's more opportunities to be able to take advantage of. And it's more people that you need to tap into that you have not even been introduced to yet. We got work to do, ladies and gentlemen, all right? So I just wanted to leave y'all with that. Make sure you tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description as well as pinned to the top of the chat. Let me read some of these super chats. Elliot Jackson says, morning, Anton. What's your take on the idea that kids can motivate you to be successful? I don't have any, but I see this sentiment a lot these days. I think that people do themselves a disservice when they lean on children in order to continue to push themselves forward. Now you should be able to gain or glean motivation out of anything, right? And I'm not saying that you shouldn't push harder as a result of more people leaning on you because you are now responsible for other people. However, it is irresponsible to then have kids in order to gain the motivation that you need in order to be successful, because there is no guarantee that you're going to then be successful just because you got a little munchkin running around. So, I don't believe in that. I think that people need to be more responsible when it comes to having kids, and I don't even think everybody should have kids. So that's just my thought and sentiment on it. Demetrius you say focus on the process and not the results. Why? Because the process allows for you to truly immerse yourself and be present in the moment. When I'm having conversations with somebody, whether it's on a live stream or whether it's on a coaching call or whether it's a Zoom call, or if I'm at my daughter's competition or I'm interacting with somebody or I'm walking around in the Dominican Republic, I'm so focused on being present in that moment that life is just that much more exciting and phenomenal, right? Life is just that much more phenomenal. Now, the process is a part of the results. So the results is you reverse engineering exactly what it is that you need to do in order to get to where you need to be. So if I say, okay, listen, I want to own this house, I want to make this amount of money, I want to drive this car, I want to have this supply for my daughter when she gets to a certain age, right? Those tangible things are things that I can then reverse engineer and then create milestones for those things and say, okay, well then by this year I need to be here, and then this 6 months I need to be here. And in order to do that, I need to break that down. And every day I need to make this incremental process to get here, right? I'm immersing myself in the process. The results have already been reverse engineered. So all I'm doing is focusing on the process, because if I'm focused on a 10-year vision, it's a strong possibility I'm going to get distracted. So I'm only focused on being successful today. If I can get everything done today, if I can be incredibly successful today, if I can get through today without any missteps, blunders, self-inflicted wounds, things that slow me down, then I'm absolutely going to be 10 times more successful, because I'm going to exponentially expedite what it is that I'm trying to do as far as trying to get to the results, right? I reverse engineer it. I broke it down into milestones. Every so often I go through, just like I go through with my tax strategist, and I say, hey, where are we? How far along are we in the process? Are we ahead of time, or are we behind times? But I'm so busy sticking to my calendar, I'm sticking to my schedule, I'm sticking to whatever it is that I'm working on for that day, and I'm enjoying myself, right? I'm not focused on, hey, where am I going to be a year from now? I've already reverse engineered what that is, and I know what I need to do today to then feed into where it is that I'm supposed to be a year from now. So I'm so focused on the process. The results is for everybody else. I'm immersing myself in what it is that I have now. I'm enjoying myself right now, right? When I get the stuff and I show it to you, that's motivation for you. I've been enjoying the journey along the way, and the process is for me. The results is for everybody else. The results then substantiates why you should listen to me as a person that can give you game and insight on how it is that you can be successful. The process is for me. The results is for you, right? You focus on what it is that I have so that you can try to understand how I got it. And then when I show you what the process is, that then feeds into how it is that you can get the results. So the process is for us. The results is for everybody else. Focus on the process. Let everybody else focus on the results. The results has already been reverse engineered. That's what we're working on. Shout out to you, Demetrius. You're getting a lot of game for that $2, big dog. Joseph is in the building and says, and Jesus said unto him, no man having put his hand to the plow and looking back is fit for the kingdom of God. Don't look back. Keep moving forward. Thank you for the scripture to substantiate what it is that I was saying. Demetrius says, at what time do you just focus on the result? Never. Only when you're doing a litmus test of where it is that you are. HLC Jr. says, good morning, Anton and family. Have a great show and a great day. And you also. Thank you for contributing to the platform. Thank you for the super chat, and I appreciate y'all. Y'all ready to get into the show? Make sure y'all hit a like for the YouTube algorithm, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notifications. All right, let's get popping. Desiigner, ladies and gentlemen. Desiigner. Now, Desiigner is... I got bros in Atlanta. Remember when Kanye was a big Desiigner fan and all of that, and he popped off and everybody thought that he was Future? I remember. Well, before I actually even get into this video, let me share my screen with you guys really quickly, because Desiigner, and thank you guys for sending me this morning, because I otherwise would not have even had it to even have this conversation with you in the first place. Let's see what we got here. There we go. The designer is charged with indecent exposure for allegedly jacking off on a plane. Yeah. Jack life is in full effect, ladies and gentlemen. Jack life is in full effect. So designer is charged with indecent exposure for jacking on a plane. Now, this is not how I anticipated starting off the day with the Millionaire Morning Show, but we gotta give the awards to the people that are fumbling the bag and not doing the things that they supposed to do in order to get to that next level in life. All right, so let's just go through. He was hit with a federal charge on Monday for allegedly jacking on an international flight, claiming he exposed himself because he hadn't had box in a week. Let me blow that up a little bit for the people in the back. Just want to make sure that we all in the same space. He claimed he exposed himself, and I'm going to be reading super chat shortly. He exposed himself because he hadn't had box in a week. Now, I know that there's a lot of people that's going to sit here and tell me about discipline, that you shouldn't have to have any as a man. Designer, in the situation that he's facing, probably would tell you otherwise. The 25-year-old rapper, whose real name is Sidney Royale Selby III, was charged with one misdemeanor count of indecent exposure over allegations he exposed himself multiple times, starting around the 60 to 90 minutes into the Delta flight from Tokyo to Minneapolis on April 17th, a criminal complaint alleged. Now, here's the question that I have for you guys, right? Anton recently booked a flight over to Tokyo. At what point do you feel comfortable enough to publicly pull out your cock and start beating off with children on a flight? Now, this is one thing that I know for sure, right? Because I recently booked a flight over to Tokyo. That is a 13-hour flight from Metro Detroit direct over to Tokyo. You are on a 13-hour flight and you are beaten off multiple different times on a plane, and we are supposed to look at you guys as sane. You know what the funniest part about it is that even though this is a small example of what it is that we see within our culture, this is also the type of people that we celebrate and we put on a pedestal. Maybe not Designer himself, because he's not as hot right now, but ultimately a lot of time we take advice from these people, we pedestalize them, we say that they awesome and all of that other type of stuff. But let's continue to get into it. It said after a flight attendant spotted him exposing himself, he quickly covered up, only to be caught 5 minutes later by members of the flight crew. Oh my Jesus. He was again told no. Listen to this. He was told, no, sir, cover yourself up. And even after he was told he was going to be arrested, he was seen exposing himself for a third time. Travel buddies, 2 of them, agreed to watch him the rest of the flight when he was moved to the back of the plane, where he apologized to a security guard and claimed he was bugging and messed up. Am I missing something here, ladies and gentlemen? Am I missing something here? You are on an international flight from Tokyo over to Minneapolis, and you have to have 2 travel buddies and security watch you and then be moved to the back of the plane, and you apologize for bugging. When he got up from his first class seat to move to the back, you know what's so funny about this? This is getting worse and worse. When he got up from his first class seat and moved to the back, first and foremost, on an international flight, I'm riding Delta One. So my plane ticket is going to cost significantly more. However, I'm going to have a level of privacy. Because if you have a first class flight, because there's 4 different rows of flights, right? You got Delta One, which you have the individual pods where you can lay all the way down or whatever. And maybe he could have got away with it. But, you know, he got brawls in Atlanta and he be screaming. So he's probably a little bit more aggressive with his jacking, right? But you have one pod on the left, two in the middle, like that are co-joined, especially if you like a couple, and then you have one on the right. So it's 1-2-1. 1-2-1. Now, first class is 2-4-2. Okay? And then it's Delta Comfort Plus, which is like a regular seat with a little bit more amenities and a little bit more leg room, and then you got regular main cabin, right? But they moved him from first class all the way to the back of the plane. And when he got up from his first class seat to move to the back, a jar of Vaseline dropped in the aisle. Jesus Christ. Oh my God. This is getting worse and worse. Oh, look at this guy. Could you imagine this guy beating off next to you when you sit next to him in a first class flight? That's insane, yo. Before he was taken into their custody, he apologized to the flight crew. When talking to the FBI, he allegedly told an agent he didn't get much in Japan and showed his magic stick to one of the flight attendants he found attractive. So this is starting to become a little bit more well thought out. So the goal wasn't just him beating, right? The goal was for him to possibly attract a flight attendant that wanted some of his magic stick because he couldn't really get no box when he was over in Tokyo, Japan. And so maybe the flight attendant was similar to a corrections officer in which he's willing to give that stick a ride. Who knows? That's what he's saying. He said he also exposed himself because he hadn't had anything in like a week. The agent understood it to mean sex. When the agent asked if his actions interfered with the flight attendant's job, he outrageously replied, "I thought I was giving her encouragement to keep pushing. You know what I mean? Keep striving for it." He also told the agent he was not under the influence during the flight. Look at this guy. Could you imagine this guy right here? This guy right here. And you trying to do your job. And you trying to take care of business. And you trying to service all of the different people. And you got to give multiple different meals throughout the flight. And can you imagine that this crazy mother effer right here, don't worry, y'all, I've been doing a lot better with my cussing. This crazy mother effer right here is pulling out his cock and he's yanking himself on this flight. That's wild. Me and this dude couldn't even be friends no more. The rapper, known for his hit Panda, said on social media Thursday he was seeking mental health treatment, noting he was ashamed of his actions on a flight back to the U.S. without elaborating. He said, "For the past few months, I have not been okay. I've been struggling to come to terms with what is going on. While overseas for a concert I performed at, I had to be admitted into the hospital. I was not thinking clearly. They gave me meds. I had to hop on a plane home. I am ashamed of my actions. That happened on the plane. I landed back to the States. I am admitting myself into a facility to help me. I will be canceling all of my shows and any obligations until further notice. Mental health is real, guys. Please pray for me. If you're not feeling like yourself, please get help," he concluded. Listen. I don't want any kind of advice from Desiigner on how to deal with any of my own personal issues. I don't want any advice from this guy right here on how to deal with my own personal health issues. First and foremost, not to sound mean or anything, but the reality is that I think that he's just saying this. Everybody leans on a whole mental health argument when they get caught doing something that they're not supposed to do. Oh, I had a problem I hadn't addressed. Oh, man, I should have been hospitalized. Oh, I've been dealing with depression. No, you've been dealing with an overabundance of being overly stimulated by watching and being on sites that you shouldn't be on. And you don't have any level of control to where you don't even have decorum on a plane ride back to where it is that you're supposed to be in the first place. This is not health issues. This is just somebody that's doing what they want to do when they want to do it, and they think that the world is supposed to just move over as a result of it. This is dumb. This is absolutely stupid. I started to play a lawyer's perspective on what's happening, but I don't even want to continue to entertain this conversation because I think that it's done. I think that the very idea that he's on the New York Post saying that he got charged with indecent exposure for allegedly jacking off on a flight is unacceptable. There's a lot of things that I can deal with in life. One of the things that I think is absolutely egregious is publicly doing things that you're not supposed to be doing, that only is supposed to happen behind closed doors. I don't even want to see two men kissing in public. I think that that's egregious. I think that that's absolutely positively disrespectful if I see two men kiss in public. That's just me. Call me phobic, call me whatever it is that you want to call me. But I just don't think that kids should be able to see that type of stuff. If kids cannot see it, in my opinion, then it is something that should not be happening at all. So, shout out to Desiigner for looking like a whole fool, not a half fool. Let me read some of these super chats. Shout out to D Pound, says just joined the Patreon. What's your thoughts on the music industry? Do you see yourself with a record label of some sort managing talent? No, I do not like the music industry. I think that content creators are actually the new music people. And I think that we make way more money than whoever it is in the music industry. I do not like the music industry. I cannot ever see myself managing a bunch of misfits on a label, trying to help them to understand how they need to do things differently. And then them coming back and talking about how I shouldn't own a masters, even though they didn't have nothing when I found them. Nope. I do not see it. Thank you for the question, D Pounds. I would not start a music label. Glicky says, Anton, you recommended me to do cybersecurity on Patreon. If I go to school for 4 years, will the demand still be the same as today? Cybersecurity, in my opinion, is one of the very few industries that will not be upended by what it is that we see happening from a technology perspective. As a matter of fact, there is a shortage of people that understand what's going on in cybersecurity. And if you worried about 4 years, let me just go ahead and alleviate any of your concerns. You shouldn't be. What we see is the industry and every job needing more and more cybersecurity professionals because everything is moving digital, everything is moving AI, everything is moving technology based, and you will never, ever, ever need a job or not be able to lean back on your education in order to continue to secure that bag in cybersecurity. It is probably the one guaranteed industry where you know you will always be needed. And so cybersecurity is absolutely positively a great place for you to be in. And you don't have to worry about being outsourced within 4 years at all. All right. Thank you for the questions. I'm going to be reading super chats throughout the show. Let me go ahead and move into the next thing. So as you guys already know, Trump, or let me revise that. Biden, as I indicated to you guys yesterday, Biden has announced that he's running for re-election now. Biden is already, I believe, the oldest president in history. Think about that for a minute. At 82, I believe he's 82 years old. There's a running joke because he's always falling up and down the steps. He's probably the president that's fallen the most out of any other president, or tripping up and down the steps. He often at times misses doors. We don't even know if he's in his right mind. We don't know if his memory is fading. All of his functions and his cognitive functions of his hands and eye coordination seem to be off on a regular basis. But President Biden, our president, you and I, because you voted for him, our president has announced that he's running for re-election, and he released footage that highlighted that yesterday. Well, the former president, the one that came in before Biden, and you guys voted for Biden and Kamala Harris because they told you if you didn't vote black, then you wasn't black, or if you didn't vote for them, then you wasn't black, has released video footage that basically addresses what he thinks about Biden running for re-election. Let's go ahead and play what he thinks.
You could take the 5 worst presidents in American history and put them together, and they would not have done the damage Joe Biden has done to our nation in just a few short years. Not.
Yo, you gotta love Trump, man. Listen, even if you don't like him as a person, you have to like him as an entertainer. You have to like the idea that he's willing to say what he really means and mean what he say, and that he doesn't mince words, and he get right to it. He said from the very beginning, he didn't say hello, he didn't say what up, though, like we say in Detroit. He said, listen, man, you could take the worst 5 presidents in the history of the United States of America, and all of them combined wouldn't even equate to the amount of damage Joe Biden has done since he's been in office. Talk about throwing bombs.
Not even close. Thanks to Joe Biden's socialist spending calamity, American families are being decimated by the worst inflation in half a century.
Agreed. Me and Trump are on the same page on that. Inflation is out of control, and most people are trying to figure out how they're going to survive, let alone thrive. So that's absolutely true.
Banks are failing, our currency is crashing, and the dollar will soon no longer be the world standard, which will be our greatest defeat in over 200 years.
Now, this is what I like to call, if we just being 100% objective, this is what I like to call a white lie. Now, why am I calling this a white lie? Because he said banks are failing. Well, we know that that's at the forefront, or at least a few weeks ago that was at the forefront of a lot of what was being communicated across social media as far as banks over in Silicon Valley Bank failing and stuff like that. But the truth of the matter is, and this is why you guys need to do a little bit more of your research, because we know that certain candidates, and all candidates as a matter of fact, I'm gonna read y'all super chat shortly. All candidates, they heap on whatever it is that's as a headline in order to illustrate a point. But the context is that banks always fail. Banks collapse on a regular basis. As a matter of fact, multiple different banks, a lot of smaller banks, maybe not the bigger ones, but a lot of smaller banks fall on a regular basis every single year, even during the Trump presidency, even during the Obama presidency, even during Biden presidency, even during the Bush presidency, even on the Clinton presidency. Banks fail on a regular basis. Okay, so we know that that is true, but it is a white lie in that it doesn't give you the full context, and that banks fail on a regular basis. So, but inflation is out of control, and the U.S. dollar is under attack. We all know that.
Real wages have been falling 24 months in a row. In other words, under Biden, workers have gotten a pay cut each and every month for 2 straight years.
Now, what is he saying with regard to that, right? He's saying that workers have gotten a pay cut each and every month over the last 2 years. Now, on the surface, now this is what I call a white truth, right? It's the reverse of a white lie. He's not giving you the additional context, but he's absolutely right. And the reason that he's right is, even though you may have gotten a raise on your job, let's just say hypothetically, on average, people get between a 1% and a 3% raise. Sometimes on good years, you'll get a 5 to 6% raise on your job. At this time, while we're in a mild recession, what you see happening is that people are just happy to have a job. There are jobs available, but there are not a whole lot of jobs in which people qualify for the high-paying jobs. And even if you make $100,000 a year, it doesn't go as far as it used to. Why? Because inflation is out of control. So even if you get a 1 to 2 to 3% raise, or you make it more than you ever have in your entire life, it doesn't seem to be stretching as far, simply because inflation is out of control, meaning your rent went up a whole lot, the cost of gas went up a whole lot, the cost of food and chicken wings and whatever it is that you buy from the grocery store went up a whole lot, travel went up a whole lot, you being able to take a chick out in order to bust her down went up a whole lot, clothes a whole lot, the cost to be able to raise kids a lot, homeowners association fees through the roof. So everything is exponentially more costs more. And even though you may be making more money than you ever have, it just doesn't stretch as far, and you're going to feel like you're broker than you ever been, simply because the true cost and your inflation is actually much higher than what it is that they identify as inflation, because you don't understand how money works. So he's absolutely right. People are making less money than they ever have before, based off of the true cost of what it takes in order to survive. So he's right. So for every white lie he tells a white truth. And that's the context behind it.
We have surrendered our energy independence, just like we surrendered in Afghanistan, which we had just a short time ago, And the price of gasoline just hit a 5-month high, and it's going much higher than that. Under my leadership, we had the most secure border in U.S. history by far. Never had a border like this. Under Biden, the southern border has been abolished, and millions of illegal aliens have been released into our communities. What's happening now is beyond.
There was this, I don't know if y'all remember, but just like over the last 2 years, DeSantis and Texas, people from these Republican states in which they're having a border crisis, and something that Kamala Harris and more importantly Joe Biden was supposed to be addressing, has gotten so far out of control that they started busing those same immigrants or people that were illegally coming into the country, in which our current administration was advocating for this. They start dropping them off in front of their house. They start busing them over into these Democratic cities, into these Democratic hellholes, right? And it's so funny because even the immigrants specifically was acting like they deserved some rights walking into the country illegally. It was the wildest thing that I had ever seen in my life. Ironically enough, though, he is right. I believe that Trump did take on a war with China. He understood exactly where the economy was going. He instituted tariffs on China in order to stop the issues and stop the, I like to call it unfair competition, in that even over in China, when manufacturers for years, for decades would go over there, or people would go over there, or Apple was having a problem getting a foothold in China, Tesla was one of the first companies that was able to operate the way that he operates in China. But if you were a manufacturer that established a business over in China, you had to do 50% business and partner with a Chinese-owned company in order to establish a foothold there. Meanwhile, over here in the United States of America, it was literally a free-for-all. Anybody could do anything that they wanted to do. Trump did. He does not get enough credit, but he did renegotiate what was going on with NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement. He renegotiated with Canada. He renegotiated with Mexico. And so those were things that he put in place that once Biden even became president, he did not even remove the tariffs because he understood, in my opinion, that Trump was right about the war that was going on internationally when it comes to currency manipulation, manufacturing, different businesses, the semiconductor chip shortage. And there was a lot of things happening with regard to it not just being a physical war as far as troops going over to China or China coming over here. It was a war about how it is that we can manipulate the currency and how it is that we can establish business and basically become a stronger world power in which we can influence and sway other countries to then become on our side, or in China's case, to become on their side, right? And so, ironically enough, Trump got a lot of flack of what was going on with immigration. Interestingly, though, Obama was way more fierce and relentless and deported more people than Trump ever have. Obama was, to his credit, but I think it's just unfairly painted towards Trump. To his credit, Obama was really, really tough on illegal immigrants being in the country. Obama was getting these camps popping and he was getting these people deported. And a lot of people don't realize it, but Trump got way more flack than Obama did. And now Biden just basically opened up the border for everybody to come in and do whatever they wanted to do anyway. But let's continue.
Beyond belief. They're coming in from mental institutions and prisons. They're all being emptied. They're being dumped into the United States of America. Many of these people are very dangerous. They're being dumped. We're like a dumping ground. Our cities have been overrun with homelessness, drug addicts, and violent criminals who are being released from jail en masse with no retribution whatsoever, while law enforcement is weaponized against law-abiding conservatives or Republicans or people they just don't like. Our children are being indoctrinated and mutilated by left-wing freaks and zealots. The senior ranks of our military have gone completely woke, and our military is suffering greatly.
I don't see one lie being told. I don't see one lie being told. Our schools are starting to turn into indoctrination camps. Our college campuses, aside from them being mini versions of the Freaknik from '94, has also turned into a liberal woke camp, and multiple different companies are starting to sponsor and advocate for some of the most egregious things when it comes to our kids and our children.
Biden has totally humiliated our nation on the world stage, starting with the Afghanistan disaster, perhaps the most embarrassing event in the history of our country. It meant so much to our enemies when they watched that horrible retreat. Russia is teaming up with China. Iran is days away from a nuclear bomb, not even thinkable. Ukraine has been devastated by an invasion that would never, ever have happened if I was president.
What do y'all think about? Like, do we know that for sure? He can stand on that, though. He can stand on that because there were no new wars that were created under the Trump administration. There were no new wars that were created under the Trump administration by optics, right? Just by looking at it on the outside in. You'd have to think that Vladimir Putin and China and other countries respected Trump more than they respect our current administration. Just from looking at it from an optics perspective, because we don't know what we don't know, right? Just from looking at it from an optics perspective, you'd have to say that they had to respect him more than they respect our current administration.
And Joe Biden has led us to the very brink of World War III. They say Trump was right about everything. Well, I'm not predicting World War III, but I will say this. We're very close, and they're only talking about nuclear weapons. On top of it all, Biden is the most corrupt president in American history, and that's not even close. Nobody can believe what's going on, with, again, no retribution whatsoever. With such a calamitous and failed presidency, it is almost inconceivable that Biden would even think of running for re-election.
So, I don't know about the most corrupt president in history. Like, I don't know about that. That's probably a little bit of a stretch. We know about Hunter Biden's laptop. It's a lot of different things going on. But what do you think about Trump's perspective or Trump's response to Biden being or announcing his re-election campaign? And this is the thing that I really want to know. Do you think that Biden, because we all know that it is virtually impossible to have somebody come up and replace him on the Democratic side because it's all based off of gaining support from your constituents. There's nobody that's going to come against Biden in a re-election campaign because you have the strongest chance of being re-elected or having the Democrats control the White House when you go for re-election, right? So nobody is going to challenge him on the Democratic side that's worthy of being an opponent, right? But what do you think about his chances of being re-elected? For me, I used to think it was impossible to even think that Biden would be re-elected based off of what it was that I was seeing prior to happening for the last campaign. But now I put nothing past him. I put nothing past the possibility of Biden being re-elected because I know who my people are. I know who people that live on that Democrat plantation. I know that y'all don't care nothing about policy or anything like that. And I know y'all going to vote on the possibility of getting your student loans forgiven. And so it's easy for them to bamboozle you and convince you to do something that's not in your own best interest. So I don't put it past anybody. I think that it is a great possibility that he gets reelected, regardless of how old he is, how bad of a job he's doing, the whole 9 yards, right? Let's get into some real good stuff. I want to get back to the money, right? You know, Wednesdays we get back into the money because I want to make sure that I add as much value into your lives as possible. But before we get back into the money, let me read a couple of these super chats. Cliff says he needs to sit his geriatric self down. Shout out to Cliff. Service USA says Trump DeSantis 2024. You think DeSantis is going to be Trump's running mate? That would be interesting. Thank you to you guys for the super chats. Let's continue with the show. Rent versus buying. Rent versus buying. The age-old question because you're always going to have different people sit here and try to convince us or me or you what is best for us, but they don't truly have a dog in a fight, or they don't know what they're talking about. Most people that talk about money on the internet, they have never really lived it. They never built a business. They don't have anything successful. They are in debt themselves. They're not even fully completely out of debt. They don't even completely own their own home, right? But rent versus buying. I'm gonna be reading super chats in a second. But think about this for a second as we go through this, as we have this conversation. What are your thoughts on renting versus buying? When do you think it's a good idea to rent versus buying? And have average consumers been priced out of the market based off of the cost to really even hold on to a mortgage and then the cost of a home? Make sure you hit a like for the YouTube algorithm, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notifications. Link to the Patreon is in the description as well as pinned to the top of the chat. Let's get to the things that we really want to talk about. Let's get to the money. All right?
Being a single mom for so long, being able to buy a house. It was always something I wanted for my daughter, but it was always out of the picture. I was not very good with my money. I was living paycheck to paycheck.
She was very...
Hold on 1 second. Give me a second, Freaky Jason. Are you telling me, because I have not seen this video at all. Shout out to Persevere Data TV. I'm going to be reading Super Chat shortly. Are you telling me that we have a man, a black man, and from all optics, that was a white woman that was talking about being a single mother, and he decided to wife a single mother? This is what I'm seeing from optics ahead of time. I see a man, a black man, who seems to have become a stepfather, and now we having a conversation of renting versus buying. I'm just asking. Let me go ahead and get into the video.
nervous about buying a home, and she didn't think that we could do it.
It will help.
Yes.
Yep, I was right. Yep. Oh my goodness. You never know what you're going to get when you watch these videos. Oh my goodness. Umar Johnson, brother, is going to be mad at you, and he is going to give you 500 lashes. Umar Johnson is going to give you 500 lashes as a result of getting with a snow bunny. Umar Johnson is not going to have it. Umar Johnson would not like what it is that he see playing out right here as far as this man coming over here and not marrying a single sister with a child. All right, let's not get distracted. Let's focus.
To buy or not to buy has never been a simple
Hey, can we get a round of applause for everybody that just joined the Patreon? Shout out to Julian Brown getting to that bag. Welcome, my friend. Hopefully I'll see you in Dallas.
decision.
We'll cut it on Easter.
That won't fit in here. I don't think so.
And this ever-changing housing market isn't making it any easier. With surging mortgage rates, record-breaking rents and home prices, a potential economic downturn, and other lifestyle considerations, there's so much to factor in.
This is an extraordinarily unique market because of the pandemic and because there was such a run on housing. So you have home prices very high, you also have rents very high.
On average, across the 50 largest United States metro areas, a typical renter pays about 40% less in rent than a first-time homeowner.
A typical renter pays about 40% less in rent than a typical homeowner. Let me rewind that. Let me get that stat one more time. That sounds a little off.
Very high. You also have rents very high.
On average, across the 50 largest United States metro areas, a typical renter pays about 40% less in rent than a first-time homeowner.
A renter pays, that doesn't make sense. I think that they got their words mixed up. Maybe they saying that their monthly payment is 40% less than a first-time homeowner. But they're saying that a renter is paying about 40% less than a first-time homeowner. But they saying 40% less in rent. Let me just make sure I got the words right.
A typical renter pays about 40% less in rent than a first-time homeowner.
Let me continue to watch the video. That don't even sound right. I don't know if they just communicated it wrong or what, but it doesn't sound right.
However, that's not the case for everyone.
We'll be paying close to the same amount.
Hey, he gave her his last name too. He gave that Snow Bunny. Let me look at this. Woo-wee. Gave her his last name. He said, I do. He said, listen, our names is Jernigan. Our names is Jernigan.
But not have any of the amenities. It just makes more sense to make this move.
Prospective homeowners and investors often travel across the country and sometimes even the world, seeking more affordable markets. Right now, a few of those places are Cleveland, Ohio, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and Baltimore, Maryland.
I think that Pittsburgh could quite possibly be one of the best places on the face of the United States of America. Pittsburgh is probably the most... Look, y'all, if y'all looking to move to a space, if y'all looking to move to a city and you actually a person that is a good person and you're not a dusty, I'm telling you, Pittsburgh is where it's at. Pittsburgh is popping. I love Pittsburgh. If you a Michigander and you a person from Detroit and you used to going over to Chicago and Chicago was all messed up and stuff like that, y'all know how we used to, people back in the day, we used to go to Cedar Point, we used to go to Mackinac Island, we used to go to Traverse City, and we used to go over to Chicago. Don't go to Chicago. Some of y'all drive 4 hours or 4 and some change over to Chicago. Go over to Pittsburgh. It's the same distance. It's the same amount of time. It's a vibe. Pittsburgh is a vibe. I love Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is the spot. If you are in the Midwest or you on the East Coast and you're looking for a more affordable city with a great culture, a great food scene, dope people, when you drive into the city, it looks like it's been carved out of a mountain. It's perfect. It's a sports town. It got looks, vision, views, vibes, all of that. Go back and look at my video that I documented Pittsburgh in. Pittsburgh is slapping. A lot of y'all not familiar with Pittsburgh, but I'm telling you, you need to look at it. Just visit it this year. Visit Pittsburgh in the summer and see what it's like. It's one of the most amazing places that I've ever visited in the United States of America. Super dope.
Matter if the market gonna crash or not. Something gonna happen, but we're not sure what. Maybe it's gonna be back again, maybe it's not. We're gonna keep going, doing it.
I was at work and I get a phone call from Stephanie and she
Hey,
said,
big dog, tuck your stomach in. Tuck it in. Don't just let it all out. You on national TV. This is going to get thousands and hundreds of thousands and millions of views. Suck it in, big dog.
that they had to evacuate the apartment. It didn't register at first. I still get choked up thinking about it. I just raced home
Don't cry.
and the police tape was over. I didn't know where she was at. Her and the 3 girls
3?
were like just in tears. I'm sorry. I don't like talking about it.
Leland and Stephanie Jernigan had to move out of their Cleveland apartment in January
This man became a stepfather. Married a white woman against Umar Johnson's wishes. Oh, he gonna get 1,000 lashes.
2019. A neighboring apartment had a fire, forcing them to stay with family for a few days and then a hotel. Just 10 days after Stephanie gave birth to their daughter, Tatum.
She slept in her car seat the first night because we had nowhere to put her.
Leland Jernigan always dreamed of purchasing a home of his own, but that fire put a wrench on his plans.
I had a little over $5,000 saved. We were going to use that to try to get a house of our own. I had to utilize a lot of that money.
Where you go to get? All right, so listen, let's put it in perspective. Come on, y'all, hold on. $5,000, in my opinion, is not hard to save. You need to lower your lifestyle. It's not just about how it is that you live, and you need to stop having kids. Can we please just cut the crap and let's get right to it? Stop having children out of wedlock. and then start blaming everybody else for how much it costs for you to live. Where are you going to go that you can put a down payment of $5,000 and buy a home? I'm not familiar. Where are you going to go to where you can put, even if you're doing 3.5%, I don't know any spaces where you can go and buy a home for the equivalent of under what, $120,000, and you putting 3.5% down, let alone 20%. If you're putting 20% down on a $300,000 home, that's $60,000. I don't know what's going on out here with these streets.
To find a place and to buy everything else that we had lost. The house was just totally taken off the table. And as a man, you don't want that for your wife and your kids. Like, you want to be able to provide. March 16th, 2020, I get a phone call from my boss, like, hey, we're closing up.
Meanwhile, Stephanie was on maternity leave and demoted as a result of the pandemic. Within a few months, Leland found a new job. While it pays about $20,000 less than his previous job, the family is finally back on track with their...
I'm so confused. This reminds me of one of those old episodes of House Hunters. So you're making $20,000 less. She was on maternity leave. You got one child and then two stepchildren. You only have $5,000 saved, but now you got enough money to be able to buy a house. All right, let me just watch it because this is wild. This is absolutely wild to me.
Savings. On April 4th, 2023, they closed on their first home.
Tatum talks all the time about going to the new house, going to the new house. Is it our time yet? That's what she says.
It's not my turn.
It's not your turn, you're right.
It'll be your turn soon. I cannot wait to see her face when we walk in the door.
After about a decade of record low mortgage rates and record high home prices, the United States housing market has slowed down. From January 2022 to January 2023, sales declined by 37%, and while prices increased 1.3% during the same time, those numbers drastically fluctuated throughout 2020.
I'm still trying to get to the point where I can understand exactly how it is that he can afford to buy a home all of a sudden. But we'll get there, apparently.
And while it's often been said that buying a home is better than renting, it's not as straightforward right now. In December 2022, in 45 of the 50 largest U.S. metros, it was more cost-effective to rent than buy. That's up from 30 markets from the prior year. In the top 10 metros that favored renting, monthly starter homeownership costs were an average of $1,920 higher than rents. And the gap is only getting bigger.
So they're saying that the gap, according to the statistics and the data that they're citing, they're saying that the gap between how much it costs to rent versus how much it costs to own is wide. And they're saying it's getting wider because the cost of housing is going up and the cost of how much it costs to finance that housing is also going up because we know that the Feds is continuing to raise interest rates. So that is true to an extent, but I didn't know it was that much of a gap. I know the true cost of home ownership is not really accounted for by most people, meaning that when people look at the cost of home ownership, they're not taking into account property taxes. They're not taking into account homeowners association fees. They're not taking into account repair and maintenance. And so the true cost of home ownership is not really accounted for by most people when they're looking at the cost of being able to buy a home. Then you got to pay realtor fees if you decide to sell, closing costs, and all of this other type of stuff. And so people really not understanding. You go over to Chicago, and it's funny. I was coaching somebody. And it was actually somebody that was pretty famous as manager. I was coaching somebody that was a famous person's manager, and they had a gambling problem, right? And in that gambling problem, they was like, yo, Ton, I need you to hit me off with some money. And I was like, what you mean? He's like, oh, man, I'm all behind. I'm behind like $20-something thousand on my property taxes. I said, in Chicago? They was living in Chicago. How far behind are you? Like, how many years? Chicago's property taxes is insane, in my opinion. Texas's property taxes is insane. But let me continue to listen to what they got to say.
In December 2022, in the 45 areas favoring renting, renters saved more than $900 on average, whereas in 2021, renters saved about half of that.
We saw the 30-year fix go from less than 3% to over 7% in the course of just 1 year.
So they're saying that it's the interest rates that's driving up the cost of home ownership versus rental markets is largely determined by how much people are paying in other areas in the market, right?
That's very dramatic. And that made that monthly payment more than twice what it was the year before and unaffordable for a lot of folks.
That's true.
So that's why the housing market really stalled in the fall. Interestingly, we did see it bump back up in January when the 30-year fix pulled back towards 6%. People really rushed in. We saw pending home sales, which are a measure of signed contracts. That's people out shopping for homes during the month. That jumped over 8% in January compared with December. And that was surprising, but it was people saying, okay, maybe I've got a chance to get in.
As for the 5 areas in 2022 and 20 areas in 2021 where buying made more financial sense, families saved about $240 on average in both years. And Cleveland was number 1 on that list in 2021. While the city has since flopped to the other side according to averages, it's not by much. The Jernigans purchased this home for $285,000.
All right, so they purchased the home for 285 bands, all right? My mental math may be a little bit fuzzy, but if my calculations are correct, that's the equivalent of about 20% is $57,000. All right. Carry the 1. Yeah, that's about $57,000. 28 plus 28 is 56, plus the extra 500 times 2, that's 57. So if you was to put 20% down, right, you would be putting down $57,000. Right? Now, let's break this down if you was to put down 3.5%, right? And so the easy way to do this is $3,500 for every $100,000 that they're financing, right? So that's 3.5, 7. And let's just round it up to a cool $300,000 instead of the 285. So you basically looking at about a little less than $10,000, around $10,000, right? If you're going to put 3.5% down, then you're going to put about $10,000 down on a $285,000 house. And then you got to get an inspection, and you got to make sure that everything, and then we got to take into account if you ever going to do, if you're going to do any kind of what do they call it? Concessions and things like that, right? So my mental math says the ideal thing for a person to do, if I'm in a situation and I just so happen to want to finance, right? I'm going to get a 15-year mortgage. I'm going to put $57,000 down at 20% so I can at least eliminate the PMI, right? Private mortgage insurance. Private mortgage insurance goes away once you gain enough equity in the property to actually substantiate to have this amount of equity. And then they don't have to have the private mortgage insurance, but you're paying an additional amount as a result of only putting 3.5% down, right? But if you're putting 3.5% down, let's just assume that they're going to put $10,000 down on the property. Okay, he making $20,000 less. He got 3 kids. One of them is his, newborn. The 2 of them is stepchildren. He got him a white woman. She just came back off of maternity leave, and they bought a $285,000 house. All right, let's continue.
About $100 per square foot. And the average rate on the 30-year fixed is 6.44% as of April 2023. The Jernigans locked in 6.625%, taking their monthly principal and interest to about $1,800.
So for those of you that have never bought a house before, think of it in the same way that you've bought a car, right? And that, or you can just look at it if you ever had a credit card, right? But here's how it works when it comes to mortgages for all first-time home buyers and anybody that's looking to get into the market, all right? How it works is essentially when you finance a home, and let's just say you do it for 30 years, for the first, let's just say 10 years plus, the overwhelming majority of what you pay as a house payment, a lot of people only focus on the house payment. They don't focus on the equity in the property. They then depend on the equity and they say, well, the property is going to continue to appreciate over time and then we'll have more equity in it. So let's just say they financed it for $285 and then it goes up another $20,000 or $30,000. And let's say now the property is appraising for $210,000, $215,000, $220,000. So now they have, $20,000, $30,000 in equity in the property, and they saying, oh man, my net worth went up by $20,000 or $30,000. It's always better to own than it is to rent, right? They didn't take into account the maintenance costs. They didn't take into account cutting the grass. They didn't take into account the utilities. They didn't take into account how much they're paying in property taxes. The only thing they're looking at is the payment and the equity. which you then do yourself a disservice because you're not truly accounting for how much it's costing you to truly say that you own the property, right? Let me give you another statistic. A lot of people are not taking this into consideration. Y'all ready to do some work? Ready to do the math? You might want to rewind this. Let's say hypothetically, right, that because I went through this and I just had to go ahead and take care of it, right? Let's say hypothetically that something happens to you, okay? Or let's say something happens to a parent and they own the home or the home was in their name. The mortgage company now has the right to then foreclose on that property, and you don't automatically inherit it unless you can come up with the financing or the resources to be able to pay that property off in its entirety and then move it into your name. Y'all not hearing me because it's a lot more complicated when you're dealing with finance companies and what their rules are for what happens in a life event for what happens to your family members, right? The mortgage company has the right to then be able to foreclose on the property, right? And they're able to divest themselves from the original financing if they find out that a family member then passed away. And then whatever it is that's happening between you and all of the siblings or whatever, that's got to be worked out. And you got to come up with the money to be able to pay it off completely. But my point is that most people focus on the payment and they don't focus on all the other intangibles that come along with being able to own a property. Let's continue.
Stayed here, we would pay $1,700 a month. We would pay $300 and something for storage. Huge area for my mom, a huge bedroom for us. The girls can have separate bedrooms that are bigger than the ones that they have now.
So the bottom part is all of your grandma's and the top part is all of our bedroom. So our bedroom is...
Oh, snaps. Grandma gonna be living there too? So you got a wife, a husband, 3 kids, and grandmother is gonna be living there. Now it's starting to make sense. The way that they can afford the home is they having somebody else help support what's going on as far as the payments in the home.
that big from edge to edge.
A huge backyard, which Tatum can run around in, 4-car garage.
Markets in the U.S. in which homeownership offers lower monthly costs include Memphis and Pittsburgh, among others. Nationally, home prices were higher at the beginning of 2023 than they were at the start of 2022. But that's also constantly changing. So how does one decide?
I'm going to be reading Super Chat shortly. Let me add this into this as a caveat, right? Because it's not as simple as this. Most people don't truly even get the value out of a home unless they live there for at least 10 to 15 years. Let me say it one more time. And you have to pray that you sell at the right time in order to make sure that you get as much equity out of the property as a result of it. Most people do not, yeah, Classy Beats, I said it, pride too. I'm going to be reading Super Chat shortly. Most people do not get the true value that they're supposed to get out of a home if they do not hold on to it for at least 10 to 15 years. Because you also have to take into account, in addition to all of those other things, down payment, closing costs, property taxes, mortgage and condo and maintenance fees, interest that you're paying over to the mortgage company, hoping that it appreciates. And then they're not even taking into it the fees that's associated with selling a property, such as realtor fees, right? You're paying that 6%. Now, let's say that property is $300,000 and they're paying that 6%. Well, then that's $18,000 that you got to pay over to the realtor in order to sell the property. A lot of people really don't take into consideration the cost of allegedly looking to own a home. All right, let's continue.
The best way to make this decision for yourself is to take a closer look at your finances.
You don't buy a house based on the price of the house. You buy it based on the monthly payment. That's going to be principal.
She is off. Everything that she's telling you right now is off. She's telling, let me just replay it. Let me tell you how off it is. And this is how you know, just because they're on the internet doesn't necessarily mean that they're telling you the truth. Let me show you how off she is. We,
Take a closer
we don't teach this in the Patreon. We teach a completely different thing.
look at your finances.
You don't buy a house based on the
Yes, realtor fees is paid out by the seller, which is why I'm telling you that when you go to sell the property, it's going to cost you based off of how much you sell the property for, around 6%. Most of the time it's 3% that goes to the person that's selling the house, and 3 people that goes to the person that or the realtor that's selling the house for you, and 3% goes to the person that's buying the house or showing you the house, right? It is paid by the seller, but you are the owner, so you are the seller. But let me tell you, listen to what she just said. Listen to what she just said. And this is the thing that's wrong with consumers today. Okay? Listen to what she says closely. Don't just skip over it.
price of the house, you buy it based on the monthly payment. That's going to be principal and interest and insurance and property taxes. If that calculation works for you and it's not that much of your income, perhaps a third of your income, then it's probably a good bet for you, especially if you expect to stay in that home for more than 10 years.
Now, she's right about the idea if you're expecting to stay in a home for more than 10 years. This is why I was telling you that you truly start to see the value, or you can start to extract some value out of your home if you stay in it for more than 10 to 15 years. I just told you that, right? But more importantly, you should not be purchasing a home based off of the payment. That's like saying, how can you not apply that to everything? You shouldn't be buying a car based off of the payment. It's a lot of people that's upside down in their homes. There's a lot of people that's upside down in how much they owe for the car versus how much the car is truly worth. That's why they say don't look at a car as an appreciating asset, but as a depreciating asset, because the minute that you drive it off the lot, it depreciates by at least $1,000, right? You can't look at, and this is why I teach people to look at everything from a business perspective instead of looking at the payment. Don't go by your payment. Your payment is going to adjust even based off of what your new assessment for the property taxes are, right? As they continue to raise your property taxes, your payment is going to go up. As they continue to pass millages, your payment is going to go up. As Biden continues to punish people with good credit and start giving it to people with bad credit based off of his new refinancing laws, your payment is going to go up, right? If you have an ARM, your payment is going to go up based off of the interest rates. Right? You can't purchase a property or buy anything based off of what you think the payment is going to be, because then that's when you start to finance for longer than you're supposed to, and you start to buy more house than you truly need. Instead of living and buying a house based off of what your needs are, you're buying it based off of what the payment is going to be. And that's the thing that people make the mistake of doing on a regular basis. You buy a house for what the payment is going to be. You don't buy it based off of what the schools is. You don't buy it based off of what the projected property taxes is going to be. You don't buy it based off of what the projected value in that particular area is going to be. You're not doing it based off of what you can afford as far as a 15 versus a 30, so that you're not buying it and paying triple for the house by the time you get done paying it off. You're not looking at what the maintenance cost is going to be because the house is too big for you to heat. You're not looking at the landscaping costs. You're not looking at the HOA fees. You're not looking at your lifestyle. You're not looking at what your projected career is going to be. You just doing it based off of the payment, and you are going to find yourself in a very, very regrettable position, and it is not right. Do not listen to this white woman telling you how it is that you need to be looking at what it is that you're buying as far as financing a crib. This is why most people don't even put 20% down and they overpay, in which the banks is doing like this. They happy that you're doing it that way. The banks are excited that you're doing it that way. Why are the banks excited that you're doing it that way? Because that's how they make money. They make it off the fees. They make it off the interest payments. They make it off of, why do you think that subprime lending exists? Because people do stuff based off of how much they think that they can afford in the payment instead of looking at how much they're being charged in interest. Never give the banks more money than you have to, because that's money that can be going into your pocket, which ultimately increases your net worth by being able to allocate that into assets that make money for you long term. Never do it based off of the payment. Always do it based off of looking at it from a business perspective. This is the thing that the banks have been selling you guys for years, and it's wrong. It's wrong, it's wrong, it's wrong. And I teach my people and I hammer it into them, and I tell them to make the sacrifices, and I tell them to lower their lifestyle in order to make the right decision long term, because this is the thing that's going to get you caught up. And this is one of the reasons why we got into the housing crisis in 2008 in the first place. Not the only thing, but one of the things.
will build equity in the home over the long term. Renting a house.
Do you know how much the homeowners association fees are in some of these condominiums and even in these subdivisions? Do you know how much the homeowners association fees are?
Really just throwing money out.
For the Jernigans, that calculation looks like this. If they renewed their lease, their rent would go up to $1,700 per month. Plus,
why would it go from $1,200 to $1,700 a month? Why is their rent jumping $500 a month? That's a real question that they need to be asking.
they pay $340 for storage and $50 per month for renter's insurance, bringing their monthly expense to $2,090.
First of all, you need to be shaving that $340 a month storage off of there, because that means that you are what do we like to call these people? Hoarders. Hoarders. You need to have a more simplistic lifestyle and getting rid of the things that you don't need. Why are you holding stuff inside a store? Most people that have storages have things that are not even as valuable as the amount that they paying to keep it in storage.
But
I knew somebody that had a big screen TV with the fat back still in the storage, paying the storage fee. Like, man, if you don't get rid of that, it's not looking dumb.
New house, their monthly principal and interest will be $1,792. Plus mortgage insurance will be $125, and estimated escrow $447, bringing their monthly payment to about
So escrow, for those of you that are not familiar, because I know that it's a lot of people that's new to this, or they restreaming this, or they're watching it as a clip. Escrow is the amount of money that's being held by the mortgage company in order to ensure that you're paying your property taxes. So every month, right, they add into your monthly payment two things for a lot of people. You don't just have the mortgage payment, you have the anticipated taxes, right? The taxes, the property taxes, and you have the insurance that's baked into that. So they're requiring you to have homeowners insurance, and they're requiring you in most instances, and they bake it all into one big payment for you to have, or for them to take out the amount of money that they need in order to ensure that you're paying your property taxes. And so at the end of the year, sometimes you can have an escrow shortage, or you can have some overage, and then they'll send you a check if you have an overage. And if you have a shortage, they go ahead and forward that money. And then most times they'll either require you to pay it, or they'll add that as a part of your mortgage payment, as a part of your ongoing bills or whatever. But what you see baked into this is not just the mortgage. So a lot of times y'all will say, well, my mortgage is only $1,300 a month or $1,400 a month. Well, how much is the property taxes, and how much are you paying for insurance, and how much are you paying for maintenance, and how much are you paying for repairs just in case something happened, right? All of that stuff is baked into that costs, right? We're not even including homeowners association fees or anything like that, but all of that is baked into that cost. Escrow is the amount that they hold over so that they can pay the summer taxes and the winter taxes, all right?
$2,365. If you subtract the $1,000 Leland's mother's contributing, which is $100 cheaper than what she would.
That's how they're able to afford it. So they said, Mama, come move in with us, like the Migos. And Mama is helping them with the rent, which is why Mama get to take the whole downstairs, and they got to live with Mama. That's how they're able to afford the house. They can't afford that $2,400 payment by themselves, and they gotta probably split the heating costs and air conditioning and all of this other type of stuff, and internet, cable, all of that.
Would be paying in rent. That brings their total monthly expense to $1,365. This move, expanding their space threefold and allowing them to take care of Leland's mother, will be saving them more than $700 per month.
Don't finesse me. You're not taking care of Leland's mother. Leland's mother is taking care of you. Leland's mother is taking care of you. Mama!
Most will see their housing wealth grow over time. Is that 20 years? Is that 30 years? It depends on how long you want to be in the home. If you only expect to be in a market for perhaps 5 years, it might be better to rent, because that's not a long enough term to see real housing wealth grow. So it depends on what your trajectory is for living somewhere versus how much you want to invest.
What makes sense for you and your family is also going to depend on where you plan on living.
In the first 2 years of this pandemic, we saw a run on what we call the
This lady has no credibility in my mind. I don't take her serious as far as the advice she's giving people. She's telling y'all to pay attention to the payment. One thing that I will share with you guys, though. Well, let me let a little more of this play, and then I'm going to share something with you guys.
Sun Belt. That is areas that are in the South, also areas like Phoenix and Las Vegas. Huge sales numbers there, a huge run on housing, and home prices jumped dramatically. In those markets now, we're now seeing them pull back just as strongly as they jumped. And that's because of higher mortgage rates and lower affordability because it's much more expensive to buy there now. One interesting market, though, that has just been off the charts and is still is Miami. We saw tons of people leaving New York City, leaving the Northeast, even California tech workers moving to Miami.
Miami don't want y'all. I'm going to be honest with you. Miami won't want y'all. Most people cannot afford to live in Miami. Most people that are moving to Miami is coming from selling their home over in California or in New York, getting a bag, and then moving down to Miami where they don't even want y'all. Or Texas, right? Because they feel like they're getting more for their money. Let me add this as a caveat for a lot of people that's not familiar also. Most people, when they say that they're millionaires, they're talking largely about their 401k and the money that they have in equity in their home. So, for example, a lot of people sold their homes over in California. A lot of what they had in their net worth was based off of what was in their home. And that's how they then determine whether or not they're millionaires. It's not about how much money you have in a bank. It's about what your net worth is.
And that still hasn't faded.
Michael Azam is the founder of the Azam Group. He's from Cleveland and has been working in real estate for more than a decade. He quit his job as a registered nurse and
I don't trust any man with an oversized suit on.
Has never
I don't trust a lawyer, an accountant, or a realtor that has an oversized suit on. Maybe I missed it.
Back.
When I started, it was really at the bottom of where we are from a market standpoint, an economic standpoint.
And you got that slick hair? Bada boom, bada bing.
And it just, our trajectory has just continuously gone up. And I've seen so much improvement, development in the city. And we've seen that trending with.
Cleveland is a dope city. A lot of people haven't visited Cleveland. One of the things that I like to do is I like to visit different places that a lot of people aren't familiar with, or is that not as popular. It's not the New York, Miami, Houston, Los Angeles, Vegas. I like to visit the other cities, which is one of the reasons why I'm so infatuated with Pittsburgh.
Out-of-state investors coming in, residents looking for more affordability.
The pandemic made a significant difference as well. We had never seen this kind of housing market before. Mortgage rates dropped dramatically, and we saw more than a dozen record lows on the 30-year fixed rate in just 1 year.
So people were able to buy more for their money. That is, their monthly payments were lower, and that caused home prices just to soar faster than really we've ever seen before.
As markets started to price themselves out, people looked at Cleveland as, oh, hey, I get to work from home. I can be flexible with where I live. I'm going to go to a market that I can afford to buy a nice big house.
Years ago, the Azam Group saw the advantage of flipping homes in Cleveland.
Over the last few years, we've averaged a little over 500 transactions a year. Back in 2014 and 15, 60 to 70 transactions. We started growing from there. The same house at 40, 50, and 60,000 are selling now for 150, 160, 170,000.
So basically what they telling you is that they went in and they started flipping houses. I told you I don't like people that got, not saying that he's doing nothing illegal, but I don't care for anybody that got, like, they just got a thing. A lot of times they even wear a lot of cologne. I just start getting a little bit antsy when I get around those type of people when they trying to tell me how it is that we need to move and stuff like that. But let me continue.
So, there's a lot of opportunity.
So much opportunity, it's brought people to Cleveland even from outside the United States.
I'm Dan Issa. I moved from Israel to Cleveland for doing real estate. We do around 200 to 300K a year from flipping houses.
You ready to go in? Let's rock and roll. We got a lot to do here.
Yeah. We heard about it from friends, group of investors, then we look it out more in internet articles, Facebook groups and everything about investing in Cleveland. It was like one of the cheapest you purchase the houses, and like it's the percentage what you get back, the profit, it's very high.
I don't trust anybody that don't speak proper English. I don't care whether you're a black person, a white person. If you're a black person that speak Ebonics, if you're a white person that said, "What up, though?" No. Or if you sitting here and you speaking broken English and you got that accent, nope. I don't trust it. What did you buy it for? What did you buy it for, fam? That's my question. What did you buy it for? Because I know that if you charging me $280, then you probably got it for $70, put about 40 to 45 in it, got some shoddy work done up in there, and then you're going to double your profit. And then they're going to be sitting over here talking about, yeah, we in Miami making it happen. I know what the finesse is. I know what the finesse is, bro.
26-year-old Dan Issa moved to Cleveland in 2019. His family used money from their real estate business and winery in Israel to start a construction business in Cleveland. Then they
Construction, a.k.a. tax evasion. No, I'm just messing with y'all. That's allegedly.
expanded to real estate.
They've taken themselves as a family and said, you know what, we're going to make sure that we're taking advantage of this opportunity, flying all the way from another country. They're here to do some damage in a good way.
How many homes have you flipped?
15 already.
This is their most recent flip. They purchased this home for $60,000 and put
They're purchasing the home for $60,000.
in an additional $60,000.
If they say they put an additional $60,000, they put $35,000. I'm gonna tell you the truth. I know what's really happening in these streets. He purchased it for $60,000. He put $30,000 to $35,000 in it. He finessed the numbers and said that he actually put $60,000 in it. That's all paint. The pipes is the same. The original floors are still in there. They sanded it. They didn't even put no new floors in there. They put some new fixtures, some faucets. They spent the majority of the money in the kitchen and the bathrooms because that's where all of the value is getting added into the home. And then they doubled the price and they sold it.
They redid the floors, bathrooms, kitchen, windows, and even the roof. After being on the market for less than a week, multiple families were interested, and this home is now under contract for $195,000.
Did I not just call it out? Literally, did I just not call it out? Did I just not call it out? Word for word. I just called it out word for word of exactly how it was that they did it. And I guarantee you they didn't put 60 in it. And their homeboy did it. And they didn't even pull the proper permits in order to do so because they got somebody that worked for them that's doing it for a cheaper price than somebody else. I got a guy. Man, I'm telling you, bro, I know these type of people. I don't do business with everybody. Listen, just because it look pretty on the outside don't mean that you ain't. Now they got multiple families, but come on, man. Come on, man. Come on, bro. Y'all so easily finessed.
$75,000 in profit. Issa says a rehab typically takes about 3 months from the time they purchase the property to when they're done. That costs about $50,000 on average. In the beginning of the year, they were looking at about 5 houses each week. Their goal by the end of 2023 is to flip 12 houses and have 10 rental properties. They currently rent out 3 of their properties, and the 4th they call home.
Do you drink these wines together?
Sure, every day.
And every night.
Dinner we drink a bottle of wine or any alcohol that we produce. Yeah,
L'chaim.
Cheers.
They bought this 3-bed, 3-bath in March 2022 for $195,000 and put $150,000 in for renovation.
Now, they house, they going to buy it for $200,000. They going to put $65,000 in and say they put $150,000 in renovation in order to be able to get that finesse in. But let's just take it on surface value, right? Let's say they bought it for $200,000 and they put $150,000 in it, which basically give them $350,000, right? And they all gonna live together, and it's gonna be in a much better neighborhood than yours is. And they gonna get that bag, and they don't have no house payment, and they're going to continue to raise their families in there, and then they're going to do the house hacks and the finesse, and they're going to put their homeboys in, and then they're going to move city to city and do the same thing over and over again.
While they spent a bit more on this property than they do on the homes they flip, Dan's mother, Munira, says it came out exactly how they wanted. Her favorite part? The kitchen.
When I make the dishes, you see how wonderful. You see the street, you see the car, you see the grass, you see who's coming.
This is exactly what it's like in Dearborn, Michigan. If anybody has ever been to Michigan, if anybody has ever been to Metro Detroit, this is literally how it is in Dearborn, Michigan, ladies and gentlemen. What is Dearborn, Michigan? If you don't know, ask somebody in the chat, because I'm not going to be the one to be able to say it to you. This is exactly how it plays out in Dearborn, Michigan. If you don't know, ask somebody in the chat and they will tell you. Dearborn is a suburb of Detroit. It's a part of Metro Detroit. There is somebody in the chat, I'm sure. We got over 1,000 people in here. There's somebody in the chat that will give you the game on exactly how this plays out in Dearborn, Michigan, or from the people that inhabit Dearborn, Michigan. All right? I'm going to just leave it there. Nothing else to see here. Let me read some of these super chats, and we're going to get it popping. Hardbody TV says, shout out to the big homie and the bag chasers. Salute, or Hardbody Tie. Shout out to Hardbody Tie. Let me see if y'all got it together. Talking about Anton, stop. Oh, man. Don't sit here and tell me I should stop. Nope. Don't tell me I should stop. You know what I'm talking about. Let's continue. Shout out to my dog, Persevere Data TV. I was talking to him on the phone yesterday. Says, appreciate the coaching call yesterday, bro. Back to the hard work and the dedication. Every time Persevere Data TV get on a Zoom call with me, by the time we get off the call, he be like, man, it's just so much information. You got me thinking. You got me doing this. You got me doing that. By the time y'all get any information or any of the tidbits that I give inside of the Patreon, Persevere Data TV been sitting on it for about 6 months. And he got the full game, the full story. Shout out to everybody that got coaching calls coming up with me. I think I got 3 coaching calls this afternoon. Persevere Data TV be getting all of the game. Shout out to Persevere Data TV. Lenny Deadstock is in the building, says black women forever, snow bunnies never. In the words of Dr. Umar Johnson. Shout out to Lenny. Bitcoin Brown says black women forever, snow bunnies never. Ali G says, I've said this again. There are 18 states where a disabled vet doesn't pay property taxes. Michigan is one of them. With a VA loan, you don't even have to pay PMI. Shh. We only talk about that type of stuff, and we share that with the Patreon members. We don't share that with everybody. Shout out to Ali G. Says, on your second property, you only pay 1% property tax in Texas. On the Way Up podcast says, what up, though, Slick? It's been a few days, but I just wanted to drop in and say salute. Keep rocking out here, big head. Yo, shout out to On the Way Up podcast. I rock with you, family. Thank you for rolling out with me, big dog. Thank you for stopping in. Rashard Howard says, must be a 40-year mortgage. Bought my house for $270, 4.8 interest rate. 5% down, 30-year. I know, Anton, I wasn't a bag chaser yet. Payment is $17.89 a month. Hey, listen, when you get, a lot of people really don't take into consideration, or they don't even care about, and thank you for the super chat. A lot of people truly don't take into consideration, or they don't care about getting a 15 over a 30. The shorter your mortgage is, the lower your interest rate. You can actually get a lower interest rate by getting more affordable housing. And you can get a lower interest rate by getting a term that's not as long, which will then save you a significant amount of money in the interest that you're paying for the property. And you should still be looking to pay that off early. So shout out to you, Rashad Howard. You a bag chaser now, though. Jake Thieper in the building says, give this to Buddy with the mobile home. He got duped. Man, listen. Shout out to my Jamaicans in the building. All of my people that's rocking out. Let's continue to get into the show. I want to share one more thing with y'all before we go, because I thought that this was interesting. They paid $100,000 for an abandoned high school when they renovated it into apartments. I haven't seen the video yet, but it popped up on my timeline, so I said I'd want to share this just for. You got to have vision. Let me say this. You have to have vision. Shout out to Jeff. I'm reading Super Chat shortly. You got to have vision and you got to have balls to do something like this. A lot of people will say, well, man, that's pretty dope. You only paid $100,000 for a whole high school. The $100,000 is not the thing that you should be concerned about. You got to be concerned about the maintenance costs, the renovation. I guarantee you they spent millions. They spent millions renovating this space in order to make it whatever it is, that it, the residential space that it is. And I don't like the way that high schools are built, the old high schools are built, because I don't know how you can make it into apartment buildings. But I want to see what this is, because this is something that's a little bit out of my wheelhouse, which obviously makes me more interested in it, because I want to learn about things that I don't have any insight and information into. But the $100,000 is nothing. It's the millions that it's going to cost to renovate it that's going to kick your butt.
My name's Adam Colucci. I'm 35 years old. I own an audio video company, and I'm a real estate investor.
My name is Jesse Wigg. I'm 35 years old. I'm a real estate agent and a real estate investor.
My name is Dan Spanovich. I'm 42 years old. I'm a real estate developer and a lawyer.
We bought
the real estate developer. I was just about to say, the older guy, the real estate developer guy, he's the money guy. He's the guy that really understands it from a financial perspective.
An abandoned high school in Homestead, Pennsylvania for $100,000 and converted it into 31 apartment units.
A one-bedroom apartment rents for about $1,400 a month, and a two-bedroom rents for $1,600 a month.
One bedroom, 27 of them. Let's see. Let's do the math really quickly. One bedroom, 2,700. Oh, wait. He said 47. Oh, I'm getting my numbers mixed up. Hold on. Let me see one more time.
A one-bedroom apartment rents for about $1,400 a month, and a two-bedroom rents for $1,600 a month.
1,600. 14 and 16. All right, bet. So let's do the numbers. Let's do the math. One bedroom, 1,400. It's 27 of them. That equates to $37,800 a month. Now remember that, $37,800 a month. They got 4 2-bedrooms at $1,600, which take up more square footage. That's $6,400. So they're making the equivalent of about $45,000 in payments, assuming that they get the entire thing rented out and they don't have any additional crazy costs that's associated with it. So they make it the equivalent of about $500,000 a year in gross revenue. And that obviously is before any costs. I don't know if they got heating costs. I don't know what the residents pay and additional fees and stuff like that. But the gross revenue is roughly the equivalent of about a little bit more than $500,000 a year in gross revenue. Okay? Assuming that they get every single unit rented out.
I was made aware that the high school is for sale from a local individual. I live in this area and they know I'm involved in real estate, so the building was brought to me off market. Originally they were asking $225,000. I put the property under contract initially at $175,000.
Most of these old buildings, a lot of times, depending on the area and the city that you buy them in, you can get them for less than $50,000. Because the only thing that the city wants is for it to be back on the tax rolls, and they don't want the city to continue or the building to continue to go into disrepair, which eventually it'll fall on them to have to tear the building down or get it over into another developer. And so the city is incentivized to get it over into your hands if you know who you know the right people, or you reach out to the right people. They're incentivized to get it over into your hands because they just want it back on the property tax rolls, which then generates money and revenue for the city itself.
And after inspections, I was able to get them down to $100,000.
So we split all of the profits and the expenses based on our proportional share in the project. We started renting out the units.
Keyword, they split all of the profits and the expenses based off of their, now it's a key word in here that y'all not paying attention to, proportional share in the project. Meaning They did not say that they were all equal partners, 33, 33, 34%. That guy that was talking specifically could have a 60% equity in the property, which means that he takes 60% of the expenses and he gets 60% of the profit. It could be 60, 20, 20. It could be 70, 15, 15, right? Based off of their proportional share in the project. It's always the dude that's not talking as much that probably has the biggest portion in the project.
At Bowtie in October 2021, before we had the building completely finished. And it took us about 6 months to lease up the building. All the money we make from Bowtie, we're reinvesting into the Schwab School, which is right across the street.
So they're doing it again. You're duplicating the process. It took them 6 months to get every single thing for it to be completely occupied, and now they're doing it again with another project.
Obviously, until that construction's finished.
Service to make sure we got historical tax credits on the building. The main things were to keep.
They got them tax credits. They got them tax credits, which increases profitability.
The historical significance of the exterior of the building and the hallways of the building.
My role here at Bowtie was primarily around the overall design of the building, the finishes that we used in each apartment, and a lot of the common space was designed by me as well.
My role in the project was essentially boots on the ground construction management of the project.
Going into the project, we were certainly concerned with the finances and the construction cost. We didn't know what apartments we're going to rent for in the area. And actually in the beginning, we were funding it with our own money. We had a bank lined up to fund the project and they backed out last minute on us. So we had to.
That's one of the problems a lot of times. When I brought on my construction manager for the house that I'm building right now, and that y'all know that I don't even know what I don't know yet because it's my first time building a property. Goes on as far as the property values, and you got to meet certain guidelines and expectations, and everything got to get approved. And when you got the money to be able to do it yourself, because they said that at first that they was putting up their own money and then they had a bank that was willing to back the project. When you're doing it yourself, you don't have anything that's holding you back, and you get to expedite the process because you don't have to go through a lot of the red tape that's associated with getting an institution to be able to back you. All right, so I completely understand what he's saying. Every single business owner that I know, every single person that builds something, every person that starts a restaurant, they always, every single time they underestimate the cost that it's going to take them to be able to get into the business. Whenever somebody gives me a budget and they say, I'm on a coaching call with them and I say, okay, how much you think it's going to take you? You know what? I could do it for this. My cousin going to come in and I say, listen, whatever it is that you budgeted, double it. Whatever it is that you budgeted, double it, right? because every single time, even for myself, there is always cost overruns, and I've always underestimated in most instances, which now obviously I double whatever it is the budget that I put forth, and then most of the time you come under budget, right? That's just a learned lesson that I've had over the years of being in certain businesses. But every single time I've seen people under budget what it's going to cost them to get into the business, and then they get into a financial crunch, and then sometimes they're not even able to finish the project, or they have to take on some kind of egregious hard money loan in order to figure it out, and then start to finance it or find somebody else in order to get, become a partner as a part of the business long term. Often at times, that's how I find myself.
Terrazzo floors and the 10-foot wide hallways.
Probably the most dramatic feature of Bowtie High. This is the original auditorium. We restored this space pretty much from ruin. All of the plaster was failing, and we rebuilt that, kept all of the original flooring in the space. Everything's been professionally furnished. This old bookshelf came from the space, and we were able to incorporate that back into the auditorium.
Here's the gymnasium.
I don't have the stomach for it. Me personally, I don't have the stomach to take on a project like that. Because I don't know what I don't know. You don't know what piping has got to be replaced. You don't know what plumbing has got to be replaced. You don't know. It's too many unknowns that's associated with it to ever take that big of a leap or investment into something specifically. I don't have the stomach to make that type of investment or to get into something like that, even if I got partners. Sometimes I just can't see the vision, and sometimes I'm wrong. And so you got to go where it is that you know what you're doing, because if you jump into something just because it may sound like a good idea or it seems like a cool idea, or you may get into it with somebody that then runs into a situation where they don't have the type of money to be able to contribute what it is that they said that they was going to contribute into the project as far as partnerships, I'm not doing it. I don't have the stomach to be able to take on a project that's going to cost me $4.4 million in order to get it in there and then get it leased out before I start to get a return back on my money. I don't have the stomach for it.
On this side, we did free weights and cardio equipment. We decided to put up this scrim netting to kind of make the space not so large. There was bleachers on the left and bleachers on the right that we converted to storage units. And we wanted to leave the original basketball court here. Tenants are allowed to come, use this and shoot. Anytime they want.
Oh, jeez.
Welcome to the one bedroom, one bath, 750 square foot apartment. When you first walk in, you're gonna see that we're gonna flow into the kitchen here. We have quartz countertops. We have.
If you want to find somewhere where, you know what I'm saying, where you can live that's different, I like the idea. I think that most corporate spaces need to be converted over into housing. Most of the downtown spaces where it used to be office building, and now they're having problems refilling the buildings back up now that they're trying to get people to come back in from working from home, it's never going to work. They need to convert those spaces over into housing and make it a unique place to live that just doesn't look like the same cookie cutter stuff that you see every single day. So I think it's a dope idea. I just don't have the stomach to different ideas. I funded a lot of different ideas. I failed at a lot of them. I've had some successes with some of them. Some of them is just now starting to pay off as a result of it. But I'm telling you, bro, passion projects are a nightmare. You got to have a level of resilience to see it through that most people just don't have. Facts. I'm just telling you. Listen, I love you. I appreciate you. Thank you guys for continuing to rock with me and adding value into my life. If you have not already, make sure you tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description as well as pinned to the top of the chat. I'm dropping an exclusive interview inside of the Patreon today, so make sure y'all tuned into that. I love you. I appreciate you, but I'm going to need you to do me one more favor before we get up out of here, ladies and gentlemen. Wait, let me acknowledge my dog Aaron says, my friend hit you up a month ago. Was he too late? I don't know. What did I tell your friend, Aaron? I got to figure out what I told your friend. I don't know who your friend is, Aaron. You got to tell me. But I don't know when I cut it off. And if you're telling me it was a month ago, it was probably about 2.5 weeks ago on the low. But we'll see what's happening. We'll see what's happening. Send me a text message and tell me who your friend is, and I'll see what I can do. I need y'all to do me one more favor before we get up out of here, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you share this with your family and friends. We don't want to be successful by ourselves. I love you. I appreciate you. Thursday is absolutely going to continue to be lit. Shout out to Prince L. Leon. Says, born and raised in Pittsburgh, now living on the West Coast. I digress. My old high school was also turned into apartments back in 2017. You better move back over there, bro. I know you're afraid of that cold, but Pittsburgh is an awesome place to be in, my friend. Shout out to y'all. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. I'm going to holler at y'all later. Thank y'all for tuning in. Peace.